Do you have enough resources to research about your university? Do you have enough people to contact in the US? And how did you go across this point?
Okay, so this was the most difficult part. Like I used to stay awake till 3 a.m. every day when I started with my GRE and TOEFL preparations.
Wow.
So this was specially for doing the research about the universities, like what
Hmm.
university is offering course related to my likings. Like I liked sustainability, so it was
Yeah.
completely a thorough study about the universities, the like whatever courses they are offering. So I had to go in the course catalog of every university and check like what are they offering, is it something which I'm looking for it. So it was like that. So your university research was a difficult part, and it took a lot of time because that is something like it requires too much of time, like you should not end
Yep.
up in the wrong university.
Absolutely. Okay. So you basically researched on yourself, but what about the people? You should contact people, you should contact students, ask them questions about how the university is, how the coursework is. What was your idea there? And did you find enough people to give you guidance on that?
Yeah, like there were a couple of seniors who were pursuing masters in architecture, but it was difficult for me to find someone who was doing masters in like masters in construction management after they had done bachelors in architecture.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was difficult to find people like that who really shifted from architecture to construction management. But still, like I took help of students who were pursuing masters in architecture, and I spoke as well as with the students who were pursuing construction management.
Hmm.
So then it was my study, and then I like combined all the like information, and then I took it, and then I sorted out like what really I wanted to do.
Tell us, how was this transition? Because architecture to construction management is a very rare combination. I have civil engineering friends, and I've already covered those areas where they go from civil engineering to construction management. How was this jump, and why did you decide to go into something technical, into engineering, rather than going into masters of architecture?
Okay, so I think this is a very like nice question because everyone is like curious about like why this shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing is, even first when I broke this idea that I want to shift from architecture to construction management, my dad was like, "Why do you want to just shift from
Yeah.
architecture to construction? Like, oh, like you never planned out all of
Hmm.
this." So the thing was like I was enough with my design skills. Like I was like, okay, fine, if someone tells me that you need to design a space
Yeah.
after 5 years of studying in a well known college, that is Vidyavardhan's Idea College in Nasik, so I felt that design knowledge, okay, fine, I can do something on it. And but when it comes to execution skills, management skills, there most of the students lack, because in 5 years of architecture we are mostly focused on design aspects, structural aspects, construction aspect, but about the management skills, like we really don't know. Like if
Yeah.
someone plans to start their own firm in like after some years, how to manage it from start to end of the project. So
True.
that's like that made me make a shift from architecture, like from core design to something like execution and management aspect.
Okay, but what would have been different, just in case you wouldn't have done a construction management master's but a master's in architecture? Would you not have had the knowledge of the entire framework which you're talking about, that you wanted everything from ideation to execution, and that's why you chose construction management? If you had done architecture, wouldn't had that course covered all of those topics?
Architecture, I will like to mention that it is mostly focused on design aspects, like
Okay.
design, structural, or probably like it is mostly into design. Like apart from design, whatever is taught, it is like basic. But when you are like in the fields, like when you are working in actual field, so that time you need to have that knowledge about like how proper, like how when the architects gives a plan, okay, so how it is actually executed by the contractor on the site. So
Yeah.
you need
Yeah.
to have that knowledge. Like it is just not finished when architects give the drawing. There are multiple redos, there are multiple
Correct.
changes on site as well as like in office. There are multiple of changes happening. So just designing is not like I feel that architecture, like designing and construction goes hand in hand. Like they both are somewhere related. So
Okay.
like yeah, so I thought of just keeping now design aspect aside and doing management thing.
Okay. Now, because we are talking about this topic, I'm just going to change the order of my questions and bring a question forward and ask you that what kind of options do architecture students have in the US, being going from a bachelor's in architecture to a master's degree? What sorts of masters they can look forward to? You have covered, construction management. They can also do masters in architecture, but what are the other options?
Okay, so people who are like interested in like students who are interested in core designing aspect, I think they should prefer and go forward with the masters in architecture itself. And like some students, they are interested in urban planning. So this
Mhm.
there is a term in architecture which is urban planning. So if they are, we have masters in that as well, like
Yeah.
masters in urban planning. So I feel being an architecture student, we have perks of getting into any fields. Like we are so like we have that creativeness in ourselves, everyone, like somewhere is good with photography skills, someone is good at other aspects. So even for interiors, students who are like focused on interior designing or something like that, they can go with masters in interior architecture. Then there is product designing.
Mhm.
So like there are various fields, like even in environmental engineering, so they
Yeah.
can shift from like who likes studying about the environment factors and how the environment factors affects the designing part, so they can go with the masters in environmental engineering or masters in environmental architecture.
Nice.
So
Okay. So at the end, it's about what you like to do during your
exactly, yeah.
bachelor's. That's what is your driving force behind the decision where you want
Yeah,
to go for your master's.
yeah.
Greatly summarized. I think, tell me how the difference was in terms of your classroom training when it comes to studying in Nasik or anywhere in India as an architecture student, and how did you experience here? What was the change, and how was the classroom training different than in India?
Okay, so this was a major change because
Hmm.
the students who are pursuing any type of education here, maybe bachelor's or maybe masters, maximum students are actually studying part time. Like they are working full time and they
Yeah.
study part time. So it
Yeah.
is like, we come from just having a bachelor's like knowledge, many of the students, but
True.
they are already having the practical field knowledge. So there we think like I was lacking the knowledge. They could actually talk about the field knowledge, the practical knowledge, but when it comes to like someone used to question me, like it was difficult for me to answer when it comes
Mm.
to practical questions. So I feel that that is a good part, like they are studying as well as they are working, and their major focus was working and the part-time thing was like studying.
Okay. From that point, architecture in the US, there was a big misconception that it does it come under the STEM category where you actually get a 12 months of OPT and then a 24 months of OPT extension. Tell us, does architect come under that STEM category where you can work for 3 years on your student visa after you have graduated your 2 years program?
Okay, so like when I was researching about the universities, initially when I was like thinking, should I go with masters in architecture or masters in construction management? That time I thought about this, like, is it a STEM course or it is not a STEM course? So, like some universities, they were offering architecture, masters in architecture as STEM course, and some universities were offering as a non-STEM. So it was very dicey to, like, if it was a good university, their conditions were different. If it was like average university, their conditions were different. So I really had to sort it out. And having a STEM course or enrolling into a STEM course is definitely a preferable thing, because then you are allowed to work for 3 years after your like graduation. So architecture, I think in some universities it is a STEM course, but in you need to do more research about it.
Tell us, why should an architecture student come to the US? What kind of advantages will an architecture student have in their master's program, regardless whether they go in construction management or just in architecture?
Scale of the projects here in USA, they are quite large. And these people here entertain teamwork. Like if you are capable of leading a team, if you're capable of being in a team and performing work, so they think that okay, fine, you can develop. And here people look always to like who are ready to learn new things.
Right.
So it is more of a teamwork, and you get to know about work ethics of like as people come from China, people come from Africa, like you get to know about the work culture of many people. So that can give you idea about like how exactly where you stand and what all aspects you need to grow in.
Okay, okay. So I guess you spoke about the opportunities these architects will have, the opportunity to work in teams, the opportunity to work on such large, massive scale projects, and
Yeah.
definitely the diversity aspect. You get to interact with a lot of people and develop yourself in terms of, talking to international people, be it from Europe, US, Southern America, and all of those continents. Great. I think overall the US is about diversity, and the US is about the different people they have.